Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about yet another nail in the coffin that is the city of Oakland, because recently it was revealed or announced, however you want to call it, by the Hilton that is located right by the Oakland Airport, that they too have succumbed to the crime, to the violence, to the loss of business in this particular area, and they've decided that they can no longer operate, much like InNOut. So while you have the mayor under investigation for potentially a pay-to-play scheme, you have all of the city falling apart at the same time, and it's an absolute disaster. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticeword.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
So every time I do an Oakland story about how bad things have gotten in that particular city, somebody out there in the comments, in fact multiple somebodies, will say Oakland was always terrible, Oakland always had a reputation for being terrible, and while the latter of that is true, the former actually isn't. In fact, just as recently as maybe 6 or 7 years ago, there were stunningly positive reports out of the city of Oakland about crime falling dramatically. In fact, homicides had actually dipped below 100, which is something that was not seen for, I believe, about 50 years in that particular city, and it looked like through a combination of ramping up law enforcement, the city was on the cusp of turning around. And by the way, it makes perfect sense for Oakland to turn around, because across the bay in San Francisco, you have the boom of Silicon Valley. You have all these different wealthy people basically raising up the prices of rent and all of that, and those people who can't afford it go across the bay to Oakland. They gentrify the area, and you would think that would improve the area, and for a while that was what was actually happening. They were getting better in terms of wealthier people, people less likely to commit crimes and all that, but the fact of the matter is those very same people with those very same progressive values tend to vote for terrible politicians, and ever since Mayor Sheng Tao has took office, ever since the Black Lives Matter riots, they've decided to go in the opposite direction. Churning around 50 years of 100 plus murders a year in their city wasn't good enough, because somebody ended up dying in the city of Minnesota. That guy was named George Floyd. Therefore, across the country, police departments needed to be defunded. And as we've seen, in combination with a bunch of different various stupid state laws like Prop 47, a woke district attorney like Pamela Price, and of course that ruling that essentially, or it's actually a law, it's a Senate bill, that if you're convicted of certain crimes, including some violent crimes that were reclassified, you can never be sent to prison. You can only be sent to county jail, and the county jails being full and those people getting turned out on the streets over and over again has led Oakland to a stunning decay. And one of the things that is quite notable are car break-ins, and car break-ins specifically in areas in and around the airport, where your tourism sector, where people who are coming in with rental cars are getting their baggage stolen, their passports stolen, and this has led to the shutdown of many a business in that particular area, most notably InNOut, because that was the one InNOut in the city of Oakland, and InNOut had actually never shuttered a location.
To Oakland, where concerns about crime at their only InNOut right by the airport has caused the company to decide to close the location for good. InNOut is just the latest in a long line of businesses that have shut down in the last year, citing crime as a driving factor.
And again, what makes the InNOut thing even more insane is that a lot of people, when they go to California, the first stop, the reason why they're located by the airport, is to InNOut, and their first stop on the way out to the airport again is also to InNOut, and this location was profitable. But the fact of the matter is, it became an untenable situation when customer after customer was getting robbed, having their car broken into, and employees were also suffering the consequences. So InNOut as a company decided that they could no longer risk their personnel and their customers by being there, so they closed, along with a bunch of different other various stores in that very same area. And the crazy thing is that we would cover stories about this particular area, and then 6 months later a whole new slate of businesses would close, and then I would find out through the research of the video that it was actually in the same complex. So this area has been getting hit extraordinarily hard repeatedly, and it's been going on for years, and the mayor of Oakland has done absolutely nothing about it. People will say when the police are there, the crime will stop, but guess what? The police aren't there. They don't believe in this idea of sending cops to hotspots, which is absolutely crazy in my opinion. in. Well, guess what? It has happened again, this time with an airport Hilton, and these should basically be automatically in business because even if they're not the nicest facilities, their proximity to the airport would lead them to have clients like airlines housing their flight attendants and all different various people who are just looking to stay somewhere close to the airport when they're visiting a location.
Another big challenge for Oakland businesses leaving the city. Today, the Hilton near the Oakland Airport announced that it will be shutting down after more than 50 years in business.
I mean, just think about that. This place was in business for 50 years. 50 years they were operating right by the airport because you would think that having a hotel right by their place where there's people that are traveling would be an easy business model, but not in the city of Oakland because the customers are being victimized repeatedly, and again, it is an untenable situation for the Hilton.
The Hilton didn't explain why it's permanently closing the Oakland Airport location after more than 50 years in business. People traveling through the city, including San Diego resident Johari Jones, say they've noticed a change.
A lot of the businesses closing, just the atmosphere in general it's I hate to say it, but it's dirty.
So it's interesting that we have somebody who frequently travels from the city of San Diego to Oakland, a California resident, talking about all the different problems that she notices in this particular area, this crime hotspot that is the city of Oakland. And one of the reasons why this is interesting is obviously this is a black female. She's talking about how dirty this particular area is, how crime-ridden it is, and a lot of times the allegation leveled against people concerned about crime is that they're evil white racists, but obviously this individual does not fit into that particular category. On top of that, there's been a lot of propaganda out about these quarterly FBI numbers that say, according to these 11,000 agencies reporting, crime is actually down in the first quarter of the United States of America. And while I will point out that that is entirely possible for the broader country, normally in recent years, we got about 15,000 agencies reporting. So when you're citing numbers saying crime is down 7% or whatever the number they're citing, and you don't have a third of the agencies that reported in the completed data as of last year, obviously that looks a little bit suspicious to me. And again, those are preliminary numbers being subject to revisal later, like we've seen with other numbers being put out mid-year about the current year.
But it's dirty. Crime is everywhere, but that's all you hear about is the crime in the area, so it deters a lot of people from coming out here.
But even within those preliminary numbers, we have to note a few things. Number one, those are from 11,000 different various agencies across the country. And again, a lot of them are reporting drops in crime from the rise that happened in 2020 and 2021 during the Black Lives Matter riots and the fallout from those riots. And number two, just because those agencies are reporting declines in specific categories doesn't mean that all agencies are experiencing declines in all categories. So Oakland is an outlier in this. Crime is up in Oakland, and again, we've talked about multiple times on this channel how things were trending in the right direction pre-2020 before they turned this around, before Shang Tao and Pamela Price decided that they were going to go soft on the criminal, and now we're looking at the consequences of it. And I just want to point out that the businesses are still closing. So whether or not this crime makes it into the new style of reporting data or not is irrelevant because the proof in the pudding is in the taste. And guess what? You can't taste the pudding because the stores are closed.
Allison Wall travels from Reno to Oakland at least once a month.
It makes me sad. This is my go-to place to stay. It's very convenient. It's right across the street from the airport. But frankly, I'm not super surprised.
So here you have another woman who travels monthly to the city of Oakland for whatever business she's engaged in. She comes from Reno, and she talked about how, again, she is not surprised by this closure. This is a pattern. The people who actually engage with these businesses and are in these areas notice what's going on here. They realize what's happening, and they understand why these businesses are closing. But she said something else that I found to be quite stunning, quite startling, something that maybe if you were the mayor of Oakland, you would probably send the police to deal with, and that is the fact that she can't even gas up her car in the station that is near the airport because people are so prone to being robbed or having their cars broken into at those locations.
I stopped gassing up my cars before I would turn my rental cars in this area probably 2 years ago.
Wall said the front desk workers at the hotel advised her to gas up elsewhere.
By the way, we've seen videos of people coming over and opening up the trunks and just stealing the bags of travelers at these particular gas stations, so I understand why she would avoid that. But for 2 years, this person, along with other people, have been taking these precautions in the city of Oakland. They've been getting warnings from rental car companies, from hotel clerks, and all of that, and the city has done absolutely nothing. Mayor Sheng Tao promised some increased enforcement a couple of months ago, but guess what? That never occurred. They promised enforcement after a spate of closures over and over and over again, and guess what? After the press attention dies down a little bit, when the crime keeps going, those patrols end up receding and more businesses close, and the cycle repeats itself. Obviously, what has to happen in the city of Oakland is you need to change leadership, because these people have proven to be, time and time again, completely inept in addressing these issues. Now, of course, there are other factors. There's always other factors when it comes to these particular closures, and as we found out through the hotel closures in the city of San Francisco, one of the things that people are doing is pulling out different various conventions from this particular area because they don't expect tourism to return to the Bay Area like it did in most of the other parts of the country post the pandemic when things started opening up. So they are forecasting disaster for the city of San Francisco, but again, even that is due in large part to the criminality and the fact that people don't want to be around there.
A spokesperson said in a statement to KTVU, in part, Hilton continues to welcome guests across the Bay Area where Hilton and our franchise partners operate nearly 50 hotels. We are working to support our dedicated team members with assistance exploring potential transfer opportunities.
So right there, you just heard the one thing that all these different various left-wing outlets are going to cling to in order to say that it's not a real issue of criminality in Oakland because the Hilton operates 50 other locations and maybe, just maybe, they have way too many locations. This is the exact same thing that they say whenever a CVS or Walgreens closes. Oh, it's not crime or anything like that. It's just the number of locations very, very high. Therefore, we can't expect them to remain open. But again, that doesn't really work when we're talking about the airport Hilton, something that should be guaranteed for business. Obviously, the businesses in this particular area are far worse off than businesses in other parts of Oakland because you have a concentration of closures right in and around this airport area, and all of these places that are closing don't necessarily have nearby locations to compensate. Again, very notably, InNOut does not have another location in the entirety of the city of Oakland, and they're closing in this area due to the car break-ins, and we're hearing this story over and over and over again. So no, you're not going to be able to pivot off to the fact that there are other Hiltons in the city of Oakland. Obviously, the airport one should be automatic, guaranteed certain level of business, and they're closing after 50 years because the city of Oakland has decided, in a way they haven't in the last 50 years, that theft doesn't matter, that crime doesn't matter. They're not going to prosecute anyone for anything. So even when they actually do make an arrest for these car break-ins, that criminal is churned back out on the streets in order to do it again. And what we find out is that they are doing it again. So yeah, this is an absolute disaster for the city of Oakland. Another nail, like I said in the open, in the coffin for that town. And with their mayor under potential indictment and facing a recall at the same time after that FBI raid, it doesn't look like there's the level of focus needed in order to solve these problems. But there is one thing I want to go into that I want to play for you because I'm going to totally disagree with this woman.
I feel bad for Oakland. I mean, I know from my in-laws and older relatives that it used to be a great place.
So I want to make something 100% clear. I do not feel bad for the city of Oakland. If you were set up with all the different various natural advantages that Oakland had, if you had an excess, an overflow of wealthy people from the city of San Francisco, yes, I just bumped the skeleton, it happens from time to time, you should be doing well. You have to go out of your way to screw it up, and considering that's exactly what they did at every level of government for that city, city, I have no F's to give about the situation for Oakland as a whole. That being said, there are citizens in the city of Oakland, people who didn't expect things to go this way, people who obviously want better. They're the ones fighting for the recall campaign, and I feel bad for them that they have to wait all the way until November in order to get an answer on whether or not they can get rid of Mayor Shang Tao, and especially bad for them because even when they get rid of that mayor, which I believe she is on her way out, you still have Pamela Price. You still have Gavin Newsom in the governor's mansion. You still have all these different various laws being passed from the statewide level that are going to constrict what they're going to be able to do in order to address it. So in that regard, sure, I feel bad for some of the citizens of the city of Oakland, obviously the victims of this criminality, but the city as a whole, no, they blew every advantage. They were set up for success, and they still have a number of advantages over many of the places that you guys out there in the audience live in right now, and they continuously squander them. It's just like Los Angeles, Chicago, all these other once great cities in the United States of America with all the natural advantages in the world that consistently underperform those advantages. Can't feel bad for them when they're choosing to fail actively. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the city of Oakland, again in peril. Till next time.